Well, October is about 15 days away. It's definitely time to move your trail cameras. Kurt and I are out here today and we're going to tell you two of our favorite spots to where we'd like to transition our trail cameras from where they've been, which has pretty much been the early season water holes. It's been down in those green beans that are just starting to grow, and now we're starting to take those trail cameras and move them into spots where they're going to be there for pretty much the rest of the season until real late season, until we're trying to figure out where the last bucks are, or the ones that made it through the gauntlet of the hunting season. So starting off, food plots. You just can't go wrong. When I say food plots, you know, if you're watching this video, that doesn't mean you have to necessarily be planting food plots. That just means you've got to know where your corn, your beans, and your destination food is. The deer are going to be in those spots. If you know where those spots are and they're not on your property, then of course you want to find any saddles or any transition areas from your property getting over to those properties. You know, there's plenty of good spots that have no food on them at all, and those deer are going to leave and they're going to head to those destination food sources. Now, if you have the food, you want to definitely put those trail cameras up on edges. Anywhere where you may have a nice oak tree, you know, definitely be on the lookout for acorns. Acorns can go quickly. Just because you go there in September and you're like, wow, there's all kinds of acorns on this tree, they get wiped out pretty quickly. So just because you find acorns, it might be a good spot to get a quick rush of trail camera photos, but once those acorns disappear, I promise you, the deer are gonna disappear too. So look for as much food as you can find. Now, what's gonna happen here at some point is, you know, the beans are gonna start turning brown. Eventually they're gonna get picked. I'm telling you, pay attention to the farmers. Some farmers don't, not all farmers' equipment is, you know, equal. Some farmers' equipment is still a little bit older, and you're gonna go into some spots and be like, man, there is all kinds of food here left on the ground. I've got a few spots that I hunt where farmers have some older equipment and there's all kinds of extra corn that's just left behind. So pay attention to those. Just because the corn's gone doesn't mean you still don't have a good food source right there on the ground. Clover, pay attention to clover. Pay attention to any of your alfalfa fields. Remember though, alfalfa gets pretty much wiped out in those first frosts and it's going to be gone. So it's not necessarily a spot that you're going to want to bank on having a trail camera there for a long time, but in the next 15 to, well, I would say in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you can still get some great action on those alfalfa fields. But you want to find those food sources. Move your trail cameras to whatever kind of food sources you can. Keep them on the edges. Find the major trails that are coming into them, and you're going to get a lot of good photos. Another thing that's overlooked is apples. That's a bad one. You can't overlook apples. You want to get some of the greatest trail cameras. Figure out which trees of yours are going to be dropping apples. Kurt and I have had so much success at getting some great photos. I mean, I've got pictures of does with just apples like in their whole mouth and they're just chewing away on them. If you find apple trees, put your trail cameras on them, and you can bet once they start falling and hitting the ground, or even beforehand if they're low enough, those bucks and does are going to be in those spots for sure. Now, the cool thing about apple trees, you may be watching this video and you're like, you know what, I don't have an apple tree. You can literally go to Home Depot. You could buy apple trees for as low as $29.99 later in the fall when they're doing their clearance and they're trying to get rid of them. Some of those apple trees that I've purchased have literally already had little fruit on them. They even give you a year warranty on the apple tree, so it is minimal risk for you to buy 3 or 4 apple trees so they can help pollinate each other. Go find a nice spot. I prefer Northeast is a great little spot for putting apple trees. Cage them, and I'm telling you, within 3 to 4 to 5 years, you're gonna have apples and you're gonna have a great little honey hole, and it's a fun spot to get trail camera photos. Now, of course, depending upon the size of the tree, depending upon how much just pure volume of apples are there, eventually it's gonna peter off and you'll have to move those stands again as it gets later in the season. But for right now, as you're making those summertime shifts, apple trees are, they're fruity. Gotta hit them.
So lastly, and my favorite place to hang these trail cameras during the fall is absolutely without a doubt mock scrapes. It's something that I actually run cameras on pretty much all year round. One of the misconceptions about scrapes is that bucks aren't making them until the fall, but a lot of times these deer are hitting these mock scrapes, and their own scrapes of course, the licking branches. They may not be pawing the ground that much, but it is amazing how these deer, all of them, bucks, does, fawns are all hitting this branch. It's almost like a phone booth for the area that you've got your deer living in. And so what we try to do is anything grapevines, oak branches, cedar branches, I've talked about it before, basically anything that's kind of natural to what a deer is scraping in the area. You use that. A lot of times we're just using grapevines because they're so abundant around here. I always go for multi-stemmed ones. It just always seems like the bucks really like to get their antlers in there, get their face in. They're getting their preorbital gland scent all over it. When you're traveling around your property, have zip ties, wires. I'm always just kind of carrying an abundance of stuff, some paracord, just so then that way, if I find a spot that I think this is going to be a great spot for a mock scrape, you can go set it up, do it right away. I try to get them out in the summertime. I'll start running trail cameras on them. This one here I set up back in June, and within a couple days of me actually setting it up, had a really nice 8-pointer already hitting it. So I can tell that the ground's kind of opened up a little bit. There's actually a rub right off behind me here. So we just set this camera out the other day. We're gonna start getting pictures of bucks here again, I'm sure. Here we are, mid-September, bucks are losing their velvet. So another tip, always hang the grapevine a little bit lower than you expect. Once you start losing these leaves, it's amazing. You'll come back and your grapevine will be hanging 4 feet up in the air and the deer won't be using it. So that's something to keep in mind. And don't feel bad about it being low, because right now the fawns are hitting it, and it's amazing how in their first year of life they already know what to do with a signpost like this. So something big too that I never forget is I'll work up the ground. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but I like that big visual. Not only do you have the mock scrape branch hanging down right in front of their face, but also this big open dirt pad, and it seems to just immediately suck them in. You can use some scents, whatever your favorite scent is. Honestly, I'll be entirely honest, I just pee on the ground sometimes myself, and the scent works great. I've never had a deer shy away from it. So don't be afraid to do that if you don't have a bottle in your bag or something. But you know, this is absolutely without a doubt my favorite place to hang trail cameras. Like I said, year round, but this time especially as we start getting more and more into the season. You can do them on field edges. This spot here that we're at now is kind of a saddle in between two bedding areas that the bucks love to run in late October, November. Another spot that I've been really thriving on, where I killed my buck last year, is mock scrapes right on the edge of known doe bedding areas. And it's amazing how as soon as that first cold front in October comes, and everyone after that, you are getting every single mature buck in the area hitting that mock scrape. They will go out of their way to go leave their scent on that branch and head on into the bedding area. So something to keep in mind, and I hope you guys utilize this trick, because it's one that we've been using for quite some time now, and we've got a lot of success doing it.